Hi everybody, my name is Elizabeth and I'm a librarian here at the LSC Tomball Community Library. Welcome back to Screenshots, which is the series where I recommend to you great movies that you can watch for free through the Harris County Public Library. So whenever I move to a new place, I do two things. I try whatever food the area is known for, and I watch good movies that are set or filmed in that area. Since I've moved to Texas, I already feel like I've gotten fairly acquainted with Tex-Mex food, but I still want to get into the wild world of Texas cinema. So, of course, Texas has plenty of movies about cowboys and outlaws, but Texas is a very big state, as I'm sure you are well aware, and with so many different people, cultures, and landscapes colliding together, Texas actually produces an incredibly varied world of cinematic output. This means that obviously you get your westerns, but Texas has also produced several incredibly famous horror movies, as well as grounded films about the human experience and some movies that defy description entirely. With 4 great movies set in Texas that you can watch for free through the Harris County Public Library. A quick disclaimer before we get started. All of the movies listed here are rated either PG-13 or R, so if you have a young Texas cinephile in your home, please watch with caution. So, let's get started. While every state has its fair share of small towns, Texas does seem to have more than most, and the 1971 film The Last Picture Show is both undeniably a quintessential small town movie and a very Texas movie. However, it does take a more critical approach to small town life than most. Set in 1951, The Last Picture Show follows a group of aimless teenagers as they wander through the fictional North Texas town of Anarene, trying to find meaning and happiness, even though the economic prospects in their town have largely dried up and there is hardly anything to do for fun anymore, exemplified by the fact that the town's lone movie theater is about to close. Anyone who grew up in a small town that they were not necessarily fond of will immediately resonate with the way that the characters in this movie constantly try to leave, but end up finding themselves sucked back in anyway. Although this film was released in 1971, long after color movies were the norm, it was intentionally filmed in black and white, which adds an unusual layer of nostalgia to what might otherwise come across as being a fairly pessimistic film. Although this is not a feel-good movie by any stretch, it is a certified classic of Texas filmmaking and is sure to make you look at the small towns that you drive through across the Texas countryside maybe a little differently. You can check out The Last Picture Show on DVD from the Harris County Public Library, as well as the Larry McMurtry novel that it was based on. Although they hail from Minnesota, the Coen brothers have actually made several movies both set in and filmed in Texas, including my next recommendation, which is 2007's No Country for Old Men. Based off of a novel by the same name by Cormac McCarthy, No Country for Old Men features several of the trademarks of a classic Western, although it takes place in 1980 rather than 1880. It follows a mysterious outlaw killing his way across West Texas and the small-town sheriff who is trying to apprehend him, but the combined strangeness of both the Coen brothers' directing choices and Cormac McCarthy as a writer mean that this is really not your standard Western. The outlaw is Anton Chigurh, a hitman who seems both unstoppable and impossible to understand, and the sheriff is Ed Tom Bell, the sheriff of Terrell County, Texas, who seems completely out of his depth. This, combined with the sparing use of both dialogue and music, make No Country for Old Men a bit of an unsettling watch, but also a completely singular addition to both Western film canon and the annals of Texas cinema. You can check out No Country for Old Men on DVD from the Harris County Public Library. In a similar vein, the next movie that I would like to recommend is another entry into the neo-Western genre, and that would be the 2005 film The Three Burials of Melquiades, Estrada, directed by Tommy Lee Jones. Beginning in a town on the border between Texas and Mexico, Melquiades Estrada is an undocumented ranch hand who ends up being shot and killed by a Border Patrol officer. In an attempt to get justice for his friend, as well as exact revenge on the man who killed him, Estrada's employer, a Texas cowboy, kidnaps the officer and takes Estrada's body to rebury him in Mexico. The journey to Estrada's hometown becomes increasingly surreal, forcing the officer to reckon with what he did, as well as forcing Estrada's friend to reappraise his quest for revenge. Like No Country for Old Men, The Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada takes the plot structures, themes, and characters of a traditional Western and transports them to an entirely different place and time with very interesting results. And although part of the film is set in Mexico, it was filmed entirely in Texas. You can check out The Three Burials of Melquiades Estrada on DVD from the Harris County Public Library. Texas is a big place where a lot is going on at any given point in time, and so it can be easy to trick yourself into thinking that it's actually just the whole world. And our final recommendation for today takes that idea literally. Terrence Malick's 2011 film The Tree of Life tells the story of a single family living in suburban Waco. And while the central narrative of the film is in the 1950s, it places this story on a geological timescale, beginning with the Big Bang and the creation of humanity and following it all the way through to the eventual destruction of the planet Earth as it is absorbed into the sun. This film takes a fairly intimate story of a son, a father, and a mother, and transforms it into something cosmic, taking these traditional characters and making them feel almost archetypal, like this is a myth or a fairy tale. It's hard to explain just how beautiful this film is to look at. Malick is known for using innovative filmmaking techniques, and he shot this movie with almost exclusively natural light, something that he's done in other films that he's set in Texas, including the 1978 film Days of Heaven. And while this movie is kind of unusual and the pacing can be pretty slow, if you take this film on its own terms, you are unlikely to see Texas shot with such love in any other movie. Additionally, this movie was not just shot in Waco, it was shot in several areas of Texas, including Houston. You can check out The Tree of Life on DVD from the Harris County Public Library. All right, so those were 4 great movies set in Texas that you can watch for free through the Harris County Public Library. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter so that you never miss a future episode of Screenshots or any of our other fantastic online programs. And let me know if you watch any of these movies, or if there's a piece of classic Texas cinema that I missed, because I almost certainly did. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.